All right, guys, welcome to a new episode of the RCR podcast. I'm the Roman, or Nick.
I'm Brian, Mr. Regular.
And basically, it's been kind of a busy week. It's kind of funny. It's that after last week where you sort of made your national TV debut, and now I'm kind of doing something similar. Well, not really that similar, but it's a few. Okay, basically, I mentioned this a little last week, but basically, I was asked to be a part of this feature-length Dale documentary that was being produced by this filmmaker out of Los Angeles. And long story short, he has some pretty big sort of financial backers, I suppose.
Yeah, he got investors.
Yeah, and apparently, and he told me this when I showed up for the interview, that he used my Dale video as the proof of concept to sort of say, like, hey, this is your audience for this thing. And apparently that was what got some of the investors on board, in that they kind of saw, because my story, like my video on the Dale, the tale of the Dale, is kind of a Cliff Notes version of it, in that there's a ton of stuff that I didn't even know about at the time that the filmmaker revealed to me, because he has access to better notes. He actually went through, interviewed a lot of people who were involved at the time, got official documents, got a lot of old period appropriate news articles about it at the time. And some of those news articles that he shared revealed some facts to the case that I kind of wish I had in my video, in the sense that there was even more to that story than I even knew. You know, jury tampering was going on during Liz Carmichael's trial. There was a hitman who alleges that Liz Carmichael asked him, or put out a hit, or hired him to commit a murder on the DA who was investigating her.
What?
And, you know, just all these crazy things. And even, I can't believe that this was something that I didn't find out about, but that there was one final test drive right at the end of the Dale lifespan, where basically all the money was gone, but they had this Japanese automaker who was interested in investing to the tune of $50 million. And if they'd gotten this investment, it would have been able to pay all the employees, would have been able to start production or resume production. But
the whole thing is, I don't think there was any intention to never make it. It would be she'd just pocket more of the money.
Yeah.
Say, I'm gonna rule the auto industry like a queen.
Yeah.
And then, you know, flee to Mexico because it's the 1970s, and that's where you go.
Yeah.
Because of all those songs from, like, I don't think it's me, I think it was an Adam Carolla line, that a lot of rock songs in Mexico, a lot of rock songs in the 70s were about fleeing to Mexico.
Yeah. As
if that's
just escape. Like, Mexico is a wonderful place. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I've never been. I've heard beautiful things about it, but I guess it's much like in the United States. It all depends on where in Mexico you go.
Yeah.
But basically, it was all riding on this test drive, right? And they basically could not get this thing to work. It was a sort of basically the promotional materials at the time were trumpeting the fact that this is a car that can make sharp 45-degree turns, which I'm like, shouldn't any car be able to? And so what's hilarious about it is this final test drive that everything is riding on, that the Japanese investors want to see if this car actually works, and they make the turn and the thing practically almost goes on its side completely. And it's just this complete disaster. And I don't know, it's fascinating because some of the materials that this filmmaker has are just sort of stuff that I hadn't seen before, like these reports from a local news broadcasters by the name of Carlson and Noyes, who were investigating the Dale over the course of a 12-part series on the car, and also had interviews from Liz Carmichael herself. And
we can hear what she sounds like.
Yeah, and I realized just how bad and horrible, like, my voice thinks it, because she kind of, I mean, her voice is kind of, I can see how people were fooled, right? Because the whole idea is that this is a 6'2", 220-pound linebacker physique, but in a dress and heels. But like when you actually see her, there are kind of like in motion. When you see still photos, you wonder how anyone could be fooled. But in motion, you can kind of see it. It's just, this is someone who decided to lie big. And if you're
That's a good line.
Yeah.
If you're gonna lie big.
Like, if you're gonna lie, I mean, don't tell some King Kong ass lie that is gonna be found out the minute someone decides to do background. I mean, this is a person who didn't have a social security number. It was complete fiction. The driver's license number was the same as the social security number, which should have been red flags all over the place. And you know, who apparently didn't have a work history or any sort of documentation before 1972. But also, in the broader sense, through this process, I kind of got to understand sort of what Liz Carmichael's mentality was, because apparently, before she was Liz Carmichael, he was Jerry Dean Michael, the con man who jumped bail in the early 60s over a counterfeiting charge. But apparently he was also a gun runner for pre-Castro Cuba, which, it gets weirder and weirder, and I feel I don't want to spoil everything. I mean, because granted, this is a documentary that is probably like a year away from being finished. This is a guy this is kind of a passion project for him. Yeah. And I was just happy to help, and because they needed, I guess, a third-party voice in the thing, unbiased, I suppose. But it kind of helped me understand the sort of mentality, because when you're a crook, sometimes I think you feel that that's the only way that you can continue living, because there's no way to live honestly anymore. Yeah. And also realizing that the identity issues that Carmichael had predate the life of crime, I suppose. Really? Which is what I find interesting. I mean, you know, she went through the hormone therapy and went through the operations, although she never specified to what extent the operations were completed. But, you know, the idea that this was purely to escape from law enforcement, I think, was apocryphal on my part. I was just kind of assuming, but
well, we all did, yeah.
It was still, I mean, and I honestly,
if you're on the run from a lamb, or if you're on the lam from the law, and it's 1975,
yeah,
and there's no background checks or anything, you want to make a clean sweep. Well, clean sweep, swap genders and everything.
Yeah.
Although, because her gender issues predate her life of crime, to me that's all the more reason to continue saying fuck Liz Carmichael. It's like, you are an asshole, and that then supersedes everything.
Yeah,
everything's now on the table now. Oh, it's like that Chris Rock joke or bit about if you get into an automobile accident and one guy has one leg, guess what I'm going to be talking about as I get out of the car? Yeah. Oh, no wonder you can't drive, you can't brake, you know, that sort of stuff. But I mean, well, that then opens up a whole nother you know mess of topics. Like, if you're a complete shitbag, if you're now involved in calling out a hit on someone, you're an accessory to murder or premeditated murder. Fuck you and everything you're about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where these are people who they didn't have, the people who pre-ordered the Dale, you know, who gave money in advance of getting a car. These were people who didn't have money to just be throwing away on a car, on any car. This was during the, you know, Arab oil embargo and the gas crisis, and where it was more expensive than it had ever been in maritime. Yeah. Well, ever, period, you know, to drive a car. So these people thought, all right, if I can get a car that is functionally indestructible, because Carmichael had pronounced the Dale that it would survive. Like, her plan for the commercial was apparently to have a tank run over the Dale and a Monte Carlo, and show that, like, the Dale only had superficial damage and the Monte Carlo is destroyed. But, and now, granted, this wasn't ever anything filmed, because obviously, you know, the Dale wasn't in working order, but this was the idea of, you get an indestructible car that also gets 70 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
In the early 1970s, which, you know, you're going to, most people, you know, you're going to save an insane amount of money on gas getting a car like that. And that's why she made millions upon millions of dollars of investors and consumers and just people who wanted in at the ground floor on this. And yet, you know, just the idea that you can bilk that many people out of money and not, well, I mean, I can't speak to her mind frame about whether she had remorse for it or not, but all I know is that, like, right up until she was put in manacles or thrown behind bars, she insisted that this is not a scam, and, you know, said everything short of, like, once I get out of here, it's back on, like, type of thing. And I don't know if it's like the old George Costanza thing of, it's not a lie if you believe it. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. It's just a fascinating story. And I think once this documentary comes out in a year or so, I really hope people get to see it. No idea how it's being distributed at all yet, but I'm really excited about it. And I think it's an amazing story that, I mean, if I sat in a room and was told to make up a story and I gave you a script with this story, like, most people would just throw it away and say, like, that's not plausible at all. But it really is something that happened, and it's somehow even more insane than I thought it was when I made my video.
And when, I know you covered this at the very end, the story ends with her exploiting the homeless.
Yeah.
How low are you willing to sink for a buck?
Yeah, it's just incredibly weird that this is, well, I mean, it's literally the idea of a career criminal, and that it's the dark underbelly of, you know, enterprise, I suppose, of just the, because how many people in the world sort of in business have less than scrupulous beginnings and practice in less than scrupulous ways.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is that Liz Carmichael, I suppose, and she did all of her maneuvering in broad daylight.
Yeah.
And
it makes it even more brazen.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
There you go. But yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever this comes out, and hopefully, you know, I mean, this happens with other RCR stories, that if people hear about them and decide, like, hey, let me. Now, granted, this guy had been working on this documentary for the better part of 6 years. So,
okay. Oh, yeah.
So, but this was something where, you know, I just felt incredibly, you know, honored to have helped in some way, even without necessarily knowing it, of just being a proof of concept of what this documentary could be when done right, like done full feature length with, you know, reenactments and interviews from the people involved, you know, like that type of thing.
Yeah. How, where'd they shoot it?
Oh, my
interview.
There was this loft nearby, because they were basically passing through, because they were driving cross country and getting interviews from people along the way. And I was one of the last interviews for this entire film that they got. And basically they had come over, and there was this loft over in like shit, I'm trying to think of the area. It's like near Shillington, but it's not Shillington. It's like around Kenhurst-ish.
Okay.
But it was a very nice place, and they had a full sound and lighting guys.
Real? This was like a private residence?
Yeah, well, basically, because it was an Airbnb, because they were in the area.
Oh, okay.
And so they filmed, and basically that they had the guys. It was all dictated by the proximity, I think, of the guys that they hired, I guess.
They have
because
full lighting. Like, how many people were there besides you and the interviewer?
There were two other guys.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't a big It was, but I mean, there was lighting, there was sound, you know.
Did they mic you up?
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, well, we're going to feed this through here. I'm like, no, I've done this before, but it's always a weird thing where I'm saying I've done something before, but I'm also very clumsy in showing that I've done it before because I'm going, let me go through, you know, and I'm just fumbling around like an asshole.
Yeah.
And then also the idea that, because my hat has branding on it, and because my glasses have glare, I do the interview with no hat and no glasses.
Yeah.
So I have to make eye contact with the interviewer, but I can barely see him.
Yeah.
And I don't...
See, without my glasses... I forget who has the worst eyesight. I think I have worse.
Oh no, I think I have terrible eyesight. Here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, have it. Because right now you're just a handsome blur.
All right. Well, you're a blur.
Oh, whoa, wow, this is strong. Yeah, I think you might win.
Yep.
Yeah, you win. Because
I'm gonna get a surgery eventually. Yeah.
Oh, the LASIK
or something.
Yeah. Because I can't do contacts because I don't know. I fall asleep in random places at random times.
Yeah.
And I just, you know.
Let me get the... I need it. As I walk away from the microphone.
No, it's fine. I can still hear you.
Microfiber towel.
Is that... well, right. Oh, I suppose I should mention that next week is going to be a reverse week where I do the review and Mr. Regular does the music, and it's going to be pretty interesting. It's funny, I just finished my New York Comic Con 2017 diary, which is 25 minutes long and features like all my photos and videos from New York Comic Con. And the whole reason that I kind of wanted it out this week rather than next week is because I want to avoid the appearance of like next week being Roman week. Because then that's kind of like too much. Because I think I'm one of those people how I'm better in doses.
Okay.
Oh, sure, thank you. And that, and I also have I'm going to try to get it out in time, but like a music video for a Thanksgiving song coming out. So again, like I wouldn't want it to be too much, although I guess there's kind of no way to avoid that at this point. But hey, content and all that, you know, I'd like to think, you know, it's easy to avoid my videos.
I had a whole bunch of extra of these, and you can just wash microfiber towels, but I had another one that I washed because eventually microfiber towels for eyeglasses get covered in your hand grease, and then they just grease up the lens more, and you just wash them in dishwashing soap and hang them to drip dry. But
so what have you been up to this week?
I put stay bill in the motorcycle, and that's kind of a way for the weekend. I ran into Justin Kramer yesterday.
Yeah?
I was going hiking, and there's like a mountain trail that goes up to the trailhead along another part of the Appalachian Trail around here in Pennsylvania. And I'm driving my Subaru up. It's got some washboarding, you know, when the water along a dirt road goes into those little rivers and makes those ruts that wear away, and you drive on them and the car goes da, 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 da.
Yeah.
So I'm done hiking. I'm driving down. It's dusty, it's dirty, and I know every time I drive it I gotta wash my car. And coming up this trail is like this 60s Chevelle, and I'm like, who is driving a classic car on a dirt road, and like a bad dirt road? It's not like there's rocks and stuff, but it's ruddy. Lo and behold, it's Justin Kramer just driving his classic car in the dirt. So I say, hey, I like whip around and like follow him back up the hill. We talk a bunch up by the State Game Lands parking lot. He's working on. Justin Kramer is a co-owner of Slatington Auto Repair in Slatington, or not Slatington. Sorry, Slatington is where Justin Kramer lives. He owns Catasauqua Auto Repair. So. Him and his friend, they're co-owners of the shop, and he was telling me the story about every time like a Midas opens up or a Discount Tire, no knocks to Eric Pedersen, who used to work for them, or a Pep Boys. Well, some Pep Boys does stuff, or Jiffy Lube, or any of these places that hire mechanics, quote unquote, who are making $8 an hour and don't know anything, who have to follow like online guides to fix cars.
Yeah, franchise auto repair.
Oh, even Sears is getting like that. Who don't have experts. They can afford the mechanics they can afford. If a mechanic is better, they're either going to go into business for themselves or they're going to work for a good shop. Or the shop won't hire anybody but qualified workers, and that's again the ongoing problem with Bruce Henn's garage. He's trying to find someone who can just do 30% of what I can, and that's way above what most average shops need. You've been in Bruce's garage; it's all custom work in there, yeah. And oddball cars and JDM stuff that your average shop won't touch. Anyway, so back at Catasauqua Auto Repair and Justin Kramer, in comes a Subaru Tribeca. And the Subaru Tribeca has been to a Midas. And I'm relaying this story like earlier this week to Bruce Henn, and the second I said Midas, Bruce Henn says, "Say no more, I know where this is going." So this lady was having overheating problems, and Midas's solution was to change the spark plugs. And sell her on a tune and something called a fuel flush. Which they're just printing money. So like that Subaru Tribeca went to back to Midas twice. It says it still has problems, and Justin Kramer just hooks up a pump to the radiator. It's like, well, I'm going to test the radiator cap or something. Specifically, what did he do? He said, well, I put 12 pounds of pressure into the radiator, and immediately coolant starts leaking out of the radiator down at the bottom. And he says it wasn't just a stream; it was like what's the name of that type of Falcon where it's like a sheet of water that comes out, that unbroken cascade. And he said that was the antifreeze that was coming out of this. And he says, like, well, your radiator's toast. Yeah. So Justin said, well, recommend we change the radiator and change your hoses and change this and change that. And the lady said, just give me a new radiator. And he's like, all right. So that Tribeca gets a new radiator, because the first question was, a Subaru is overheating, prepare yourself for the $1,000 bill that is the head gaskets. $1,000 plus head bill, that is the head gaskets. But it wasn't that, just the radiator. And Justin said, well, I assume it's okay, because I didn't get a call back. And he said, that's the thing about auto repair. If they don't call you back, it's good. Do you ever call a mechanic back and say everything's fine, thank you? He says, I've never gotten that. So I guess the nice thing would be is that if a mechanic fixes your car, like a nagging mother who says, now you write a thank you letter to grandma for giving you $10. Call your mechanic and say thank you. Yeah. It works great. Other things this week. New tires on my Subaru, so I welcome winter.
You're set for the season.
I've never had four-wheel drive, or in this case, all-wheel drive, and it's a stick shift Subaru. And when it snows, I'm gonna find out what this four-wheel drift is all about. Oh, I can't wait. I'm also surprised to learn that your average Subaru, even the manual ones, are they're not limited slip diff, and certainly not locking diff. It's open differential front and rear, which means you're still going to have your wheels are still going to, my cousin Vinny, one wheel spinning, the other one not doing nothing, but now you've just doubled it. Like, well, it's going to do that in the front and the rear. It's not going to lock up. So, but we had that one thing with that one Subaru up in Centralia where we just went in snow, dead stop, floored it, and it pulled itself out. So I'm running hand-cooked tires. They're called High Performance All Seasons. Normally, I wouldn't have run something with the tread pattern it has. The tread pattern still narrows and still has a bottleneck as the groove cuts to the outside of the tire, which Nush from Moyer's Car Care says that's really not that good. He said, but they have secondary ones that go the full length. And he said, look, these tires are $108 a pop, and they're covering them with a 90,000-mile warranty. No tires last 90,000. They last like 40,000. He said, well, and he says Hankook has always been good about honoring the warranties through us, meaning going back to Moyer's Car Care. So he said, look, for a 90,000-mile warranty on these tires, I say get these. So that's what we got. So I'm going to drive in the dirt with them.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to miss some of the worst of it of the winter, in the sense that New Zealand starts late January into early/mid February. But then I remember some of the years are off. Sometimes, like last year, the worst blizzard that we got happened like right around mid-March.
Yeah.
And that was...
Screw you.
Yeah.
Because it always does that. Well, it doesn't always do that. But in PA, you think you're done. It's like our summers and winters are like that one person who goes, all right, he's gone. Wait, I hear him coming back up the stairs. Oh,
yeah. You think Jason Voorhees is dead, and then boom,
there's always
back.
They always come back like Hulk Hogan regaining his strength.
Yeah,
at the end of
hulking up.
And they're like shaking his leg. He's not done. Not done.
I saw this video online of him doing a promo in 1995.
Holy shit! Roided out.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, the big hook is Hulk Hogan says "brother" 23 times in 2.5 minutes, and it was almost like a weird Rick and Morty thing of him of how Rick always has to say Morty at the end of everything at the but let me tell you something, brother. When this happens, brother, I'm gonna take him to the ends of the earth, brother, because when he's Big Man Vader, brother, blah, blah, blah. It's just the most incomprehensible nonsense that goes on and I love Hulk Hogan promos, although it's one of those things where I don't know. Even as a kid, I was always a bigger fan of Ric Flair promos. Did you see the 30 for 30 on Ric Flair?
No.
It just came out last week, and it was amazing, but also really harrowing and sad because they play the 911 call from when he finds like his son overdosed. And I'm like, I did not need to hear that. That was
That's a downer.
Beyond a downer. That's one of those things that like sticks with you when you're trying to go to sleep. And I'm just thinking, like, God forbid if that ever, I don't know. I just felt for him, and I understood why he, drank himself almost to the point of death. And now this is a guy who already drinks like a fish.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he was very close to death this year, a few months ago, from the drinking.
Oh.
And so now I guess he's got to be off of it. But he aged, like 20 years in the span of like 3 months after that hospital stay.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, I don't know, but definitely it's on ESPN's website now, streaming. So if you get the chance, like, go see the Ric Flair 30 for 30, because it really is something worth watching, even if you're not a wrestling fan at all. Because it's a story of a man who essentially lived his gimmick and forgot how to be the person that he was. He essentially discarded who he was in favor of what he became.
Is that Ric Flair's gimmick was he he wasn't like, talk about inflation, the $1 million man Ted DiBiase.
Well, he was
Ric Flair was just like a stylish guy in the same way. Oh gosh, 80s stuff that I know their full name, like Bret the Hitman Hart.
Well, I mean, because Ric Flair was the rich playboy asshole a few years before the $1 Million Man. And what's funny is that Ric Flair's biggest rival at the time was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who part of his gimmick was essentially being the good guy version of what Flair was. Of like, I'll tell you that like the American dream with going to take you to Hurting Town. I've dined with kings and queens, and I've eaten pork and beans in the streets, daddy. Like, just like that type of thing. But like, also he's super rich too, and so he's wearing like fur coats everywhere. And the idea that this is what you can become through hard work, whereas Ric Flair is just like, I'm better than everybody. I can, have sex with your girlfriend tonight. Like, he would literally say that to people in the crowd of something along the lines of, like, I'm not taking you home with me tonight, even if you ask me, so shut your mouth. Like, just telling people to shut up in the crowd and saying, these are custom-made clothes from head to toe. These are alligator shoes, $600. I don't know what that is. I'd be ashamed to wear it. I mean, you could lose yourself in a rabbit hole of Ric Flair promos. It's great. But it's just also very strange because I feel like pro wrestling is one of the only... Well, I mean, you can kind of see it now with mixed martial arts, but it used to be that those were the only... That was the only type of medium where you could get away with that type of braggadocio.
Right.
Well, because this is like pre the modern interpretation of hip-hop.
Right.
Where everybody's bragging about, guns and butter and...
Guns and butter?
Yeah, it's just... that's a line from the movie Baby Boy, where it's just like...
Oh.
But... it's just cash everywhere and all this other stuff. Right. I don't know. It was before bragging culture, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Which is a kind of broad term, but
podcasts.
No, I was...
How do they, that was like a weird, awkward silence. And when I was talking to Justin Kramer, I had like these awkward silences, like... I wanted to hang out and talk and hey, Justin Kramer, come on the podcast, let's talk. And I told him if he didn't have time to come here someday, we could just pack up and just drive to Slatington. I mean, it's not far from here. It's like half hour. But there were these moments, like there was the 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, in that I only really know Justin Kramer through cars.
Yeah.
Like, have we talked about really anything else? I mean, we've gone, I think, to dinner like once or twice, but it was always after working on stuff.
Yeah.
Or me just handing him tools, or it had to do with the Falcon. I mean, I'm going to miss it this year because of New Zealand. If they keep doing the Retreat from Moscow rally, I want to do it. We can't do it this year because of New Zealand, but next year we could do it. Buying like $1,000 car and let's see how far it goes, and if it ends in Nashville or someplace, sell the car, scrap it, and just get a puddle jumper, fly home to like Harrisburg or something like that. Well, the way it would have to go is we'd all be in the car, but you would have to... I guess we could just get... That'd be a hell of an Uber drive from Harrisburg International home. Tax deductible, of course, but
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Like one of us driving. See, they don't have the super discount lots or the park at the hotel and stay for free as long as you stay at the hotel thing that Philly does.
Yeah.
Unless we preemptively drop off a car at Philly, knowing that the rally is less than 10 days, because 10 days is how long you have with a car before you have to get it inspected. That's how all these junker cars can exist on these rallies, with no inspection and a temp tag. So you buy the car, and the rally takes, I don't know, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
That would be a logistical thing, though. We would have the car, but we'd have to drive down, probably not in it. We'd take 2 cars down to Philly and drop one off in the lot, and then drive all the way back, and knowing that the car is there, then drive up to Moscow, PA, which is up by Wilkes-Barre.
Damn.
Complete the rally, end up in Nashville or something, junk the car while we're there for like $250 in scrap, and Uber or Lyft, really, because Uber is a piece of trash now. Lyft to the local airport and then fly back to Philly, get in my car or your car, and then just drive home from there.
Yeah.
Probably my car because I could drop you off on the way.
Yeah.
I see you got your phone out, so I think
No. I was only because I wanted to throw a shout out at some point to the Honda Del Sol that was stolen from Lehigh Valley, PA.
Okay.
Just because I just saw this on the front page of Our Cars, and I don't know, how many Pennsylvania listeners we actually have, even though it's a thoroughly Pennsylvania show.
Mm-hmm.
But, a friend's Honda Del Sol, well, this guy's friend's Honda Del Sol was taken. Fully built, shaved bay, custom bumper, exit exhaust, racing seats, etc. Basically, it was from Schnecksville, PA, but got taken. And I don't know. I hope they find it. But it's one of those things where plate number, Pennsylvania, is that all right?
PA plate? Yeah, read the PA plate number.
HRM 8815. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. If anyone sees it, that's great. And, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a shitty thing, especially for a Honda Del Sol, which, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's rare enough that, I don't know.
Can I see the picture? See what it looks like?
1 second, because here we go.
Because those old Hondas, I mean, unless you really have them locked down, people
it's on Imager. It should be coming up eventually.
Right. Yep. Loading Imager. Oh, it's a white one. It's a white Del Sol, very clean engine bay. It's got a black lip on the front. So white Del Sol, lowered black wheels. It has a black lip on the front. In some of these pictures, there were Nitto tires in that it has graphics on the tires. The windshield has some sparkling letters on it. I put the things on the windshield so I can't see through it. It's got kind of 90s clear taillights and also a black colored trunk. All right, well, I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Call the police if you see that. I think I found a stolen car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also found this website while I was perusing the other day called notinhallofame.com.
Okay.
And apparently it will list when certain acts are eligible for certain Hall of Fames. Now, granted, whenever you talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you got to deal with the people who get mad at the idea of certain acts being considered because they're not rock and roll, even though technically for the past, 20, 30 years, it's been meant to mean the Popular Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they just keep calling it the Rock Hall. So, but apparently next year, like, a bunch of acts are becoming eligible. Now, this doesn't mean that they're necessarily going, or that they're the only acts that can be voted on, because anyone who was eligible before and didn't get in will go back on the ballot. But these are people who are going to be eligible for the first time in 2018. So I'm just going to list off some of the, because it's just such a random collection. So AFI, do you know AFI?
American Hi-Fi?
No.
AFI.
But, they're a band.
Who is the band who said "Give You Hell"?
Oh, All American Rejects.
Okay.
Yeah, that took me a second. Amy Mann, Bjork, Blink 182.
Wow, I'm old.
Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Thought they were in already.
Candlebox, Clutch, Collective Soul. Which, I mean...
I thought the Collective Soul would have been in it. Clutch. All I remember about Clutch is this one time when I played. They played at a ski resort where I worked. They played Bear Creek ski area in Macungie, Pennsylvania, but it wasn't for a show. I was working as a ski instructor, and Viva La Bam came and filmed there. And this was like right after I graduated college.
Yeah.
Undergrad. And I'm working for $7.50 an hour, only when I'm teaching a lesson. Like, I would get $7.50 per skiing lesson I taught. Lord knows what they were charging. Must have been like a $60 lesson. Of that, I get $7 for picking up kids out of the snow for doing it. Blah, 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 complain. Yeah, right. But I did it because I love skiing so much. And because it was a job I could do. And it wasn't retail, and it wasn't all of that, although I clearly ended up in retail because you can't make money as a ski instructor. You just do it so you get that free lift pass. Man. You worked for tips and this or that. Anyway. So one day, I'm sure I've told this story on other podcasts or in videos. So one day, the MTV crew shows up, and it was my first interaction with any Hollywood, any producing media, anything, and it was Viva La Bam. So, and I was upset to see how scripted the whole thing was. Because they're like, oh, this was kind of fun. I mean, I like the CKY videos in the early 2000s. Like, those were like DVDs and VHS. No, I watched them on VHS tape. And really, that was the sort of prank videos of their day. But it was like Faces of Death, but everybody lived, you know. Oh, one of my batteries is done charging. Power tool batteries. Anyway, the producers were all wearing black sweatshirts, headsets on to going to radios, black pants, and smooth-soled shoes that had no business being at a ski resort where you need traction. I saw Bam Margera. He was coming down a ski lift as I was going up, and at the end of their 3 days of filming, and there was a hotel there, of course, at the ski resort, that I heard that they just destroyed 2 rooms, just like punched holes in walls and stuff. The band Clutch played, and they got a whole bunch of extras to pretend that there was a crowd. But you remember how you saw the prepared, spontaneous pulling down of Saddam Hussein's statue? And it looked like there were tons of people around it, but then there was that one photo shot of it across the plaza, and you saw it was a whole bunch of people packed in around it, and then no one else around. Yeah. It's like that stinks of cook. Yeah. That whole thing was cooked a bit, and so seeing Clutch, I remember seeing the prepared extras crowd cheering for this band that at the time I didn't hear of. Yeah. And then in my mind, I had this jealousy that, look at this guy, he's making all this money. I followed the rules. I stayed in school. I went to college, and all I'm getting is $7 an hour. And here's a guy who is a detention all-star, hated authority, and was generally mean. It was a dick to teachers, and of course I'm an education major. Yeah. Made teachers' lives hard, and look at what he has, and look at the nothing that I have. I have my Toyota Echo. That same year, someone broke the mirror off of my Toyota Echo. Probably as they banged their ski bag off of it, they broke the side mirror. And I was always one of the last people to leave the resort every night, because I would also teach late lessons. I would teach one of the last, like the 8:30 p.m. lesson that would go for an hour, 8:30 to 9:30. And I'd usually, by the time I get done undressing, it's 10, sometimes 10:30. Maybe I'd make a run for myself, like take one nice burner run down the mountain before I left. And I didn't lock up, someone else locked up. And I'm walking with my ski boot bag, and I see Bam Margera's Hummer sitting in the parking lot up there by the hotel side of the resort. And I'm looking at it. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, oh, he's got Easy Pass. That's a red Hummer. Wait a minute, I know where the security cameras are here. There are no security cameras pointing at this. There is nothing stopping me from taking my key and running a nice gouge from headlight to taillight. And I didn't. Yeah,
well, no, you wouldn't be telling this story if you did.
Right. I didn't. You know what that line was that from Pulp Fiction? You do not fuck with another man's automobile. You do not. It's against like the law. Like, you know, well, if I do this, it's coming back to me if in one form or another.
Yeah.
So I walked home. I've never messed with a single person's automobile, but that was the closest I came. And it was envy. It was just envy and jealousy. Of course, now, you know, look at us. We don't have jobs. Yeah. We're able to get up and do our own thing. And I
don't even know what Bam Margera is doing now. But I mean, good on him for whatever. But it's strange.
Now, of course, I had no interactions with the man other than seeing him and vaguely seeing Don Vito up on a balcony, and then I think Brandon was playing like a video game or something like that inside the ski lodge. I didn't say hi to anybody or anything like that. One of the producers came into the ski lodge and asked us if we wanted to be on TV. He had this horrible voice. Who wants to be on TV? That's how he said it. Good news. Bam would like you to be on TV. And the whole thing was he's going to throw snowballs at you. And then some of the younger instructors went out, like the ones who were still in high school. They went out, and after they come back, I asked them how it was. And they said, "Oh, Bam didn't throw us at snowballs. It was just some guys from MTV threw snowballs at us, and they're probably just gonna cut like it's gonna be a reverse shot of like him throwing cut to the snowballs hitting people. Who knows?
Reverse shot, just like real life." But seriously,
so that was Clutch.
Well,
the band.
It's funny because right after there's Collective Soul, but then Coolio is eligible in 2018.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Wait, is that Coolio?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Corner Shop. Nah, I don't know. Counting Crows.
I thought they were in already.
No. Eligible for the first time in 2018. Now here's a big one. Dave Matthews Band, eligible in 2018. Now, I think like they're the first group that we've gone through so far that I think actually would probably get... Well, actually, no. I mean, call me crazy. Like, Blink-182 has a shot at getting in. Yeah. Like, a real shot. And I think so does Dave Matthews Band on sort of a populist vote. They're not going to get, like, the historical vote.
Right.
Of, you know...
Because they were super indie. Even when they were big, they were touted as the big independent band.
Yeah.
Dave Matthews was very... Like, now, listening to their stuff, there is a certain acquired taste for Dave Matthews. But they existed in that sweet spot, 1997, 1998, where that music worked.
Yeah.
Something about it. We were into that highly technical... weird instruments, violin and rock and roll, electric,
lots of brass,
like orchestra behind, they primed it. The ska, the third wave of ska definitely primed it.
Yeah, it's weird in that you had this joke in one of the reviews, and I forget which one it is, where either you listen to Dave Matthews Band or you drive in silence.
Yeah,
and that's exactly how it was in my high school. You literally were not allowed not to like Dave Matthews Band. Like you could have an easier time saying, you know, I don't know, people wouldn't look at you as funny if you said like you liked watching ball stomping porn videos or whatever than if you said that you didn't like Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah,
like it was just one of those things that were completely, you know, you go, have you heard Crash Into Me? And like, but it's such a good song. Have you heard The Space Between?
Have you heard Drive In, Drive Out? We're gonna listen to Ants Marching right now.
Yeah. It's
like Under the Table and Dreaming. We're listening to this entire thing.
Pulling out my CD. Put on these cumbersome headphones at lunch period and listen right now because I'm turning you into a Dave. I don't know if they have a fan name, but you know. Let's see, DJ Shadow, DMX, Elastica, Everclear, Faith Hill.
Would you call Everclear a one-hit wonder?
Well, they had Father of Mine and I Will Buy You a New Life.
Okay.
So, but still, it's kind of, you know, I think it's weird in the sense that we tend to have less one-hit wonders now, in that if you get one song, you tend to at least get another one.
Yeah.
Even if it's not as big as the first one, unless it's a really rare, specific niche thing, kind of like The Darkness, I Believe in a Thing Called Love.
Yeah.
Like, that was a hit, but it was a very specific kind of niche of almost like throwback.
Yeah, metal.
Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Darkness is all right.
Yeah.
They stuck to a formula. Like, this is classic rock. We will play modern classic rock. Okay. Is it just me, or am I on my own again? Also great. Is it hipster rock? No, because there's genuine effort.
Yeah,
and for anything to be hipster, it has to be, I'm not really trying. And the whole subtext of that is, if this is what I can do when I'm not even trying, imagine what it would be if I did try, and then they never try.
Yeah. And then towards the end of the list, I skipped a few, but Kenny Chesney, Liz Phair, Luscious Jackson.
Not sure who that is.
Raekwon, Rancid. Huh.
Awesome. Love Rancid.
Yeah.
Out Come the Wolves is 100. It's 100. The guy gives 100% for that entire album. It never lets up. Rancid is to punk what AC/DC is to classic rock. Every song, he's giving it his all.
Yeah.
Man, Out Come the Wolves. Every song is hard, aggressive, angry punk. And no, it's not FU stuff. It's definitely, I'm trying to figure myself out. And even at the age of 36, I still like it. I think I have the entire album to Out Come the Wolves on my workout mix on my Sansa Clip MP3 player. Which I will take with me to New Zealand, and I need to manually make my own vaporware mixes for the plane.
Very nice.
I need to make a 10-hour vaporware mix because that flight is 15 hours. 15 or no, 17.
Suck.
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
It is what it is.
But that's what over-the-counter sleeping pills are for.
Yeah, sleeping. Wake me up for meals.
Yeah.
And let me know. Then from there, it goes from Rancid to Semisonic. Shania Twain, Sheryl Crow, Snoop Dogg.
All right, he's getting in.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg is getting in. He's a team player.
Now, he
is going to perform at that. He is going at some point in history. Snoop Dogg became safe, and I don't know when that was. Was he a judge on one of those talent shows? No,
I think he became sort of safe during the early 2000s when I think high schoolers got a hold of his Izzle sort of language. It's
got
weird.
Suburbanized.
Yeah, and I mean, good for them in that they're maximizing their sphere of influence. You know, Snoop Dogg is a game show host now for this show called Joker's Wild, which I have no idea what it's about, but whatever. He seems like he's having a good time, so I can't really fault the guy. But I do have to laugh because the next rapper, like immediately after, is Snow. Is eligible. Talking about one-hit wonders.
I know.
One song, and it's a completely and utterly incomprehensible pastiche of...
It's the rap version of REM's... Oh, crap. The song that everybody tries to karaoke sing, myself included.
It's the end of the world as
It's the end of the world as we know it. Yeah, that's the rap version of that song. Sorry that I got up. I went to switch my other battery into the charger.
Or it was kind of like 1 week before 1 week.
I cannot listen to that song. I will not listen to during the winter months, or that album itself.
Bad Memories?
No, that I have such feelings for 1 week and the album Stunt that I can only listen to it in late spring and throughout the summer. Because I had that album in like the golden year. It's the golden year, 97 to 99. That triumvirate of years. Crap. Those are going to be the 3 years that I'm going to wax poetic on until I'm in the dirt, until I'm deep 6 feet under, or burn me. I think I'd like to be buried in a burlap sack and then plant a tree on top of me.
Yeah.
I'll call up Aaron Rodgers, get my living will together. That'd be kind of neat. I don't know if you can bury people on state game land, though. Like, bury me in the Pennsylvania woods somewhere. I think you have to own land to do that.
Yeah, so make that one of the next Patreon goals.
My
buy
death.
land so that he can bury himself in the dirt. And then the last 3 are the Bouncing Souls.
Sorry, I haven't heard of them.
The Roots and Tony Braxton.
Thought the Roots would have gotten in already.
Yeah, these are, and now again, it's a situation where these are all people that's going to be their first year of eligibility, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'll get in on the first ballot or any of that mess. But you know, it is what it is. It's a process, and it gets even more ridiculous every year. The more people that are becoming eligible. I suppose I gotta check out the questions for this week. All right. So this is the segment known as Ask RCR, and you can ask a question by going to our subreddit. It's r/regular car reviews and posing a question. It could be about anything. It doesn't even have to be about cars, but hey, you know, it is what it is. It could be advice. It could be whatever. So this one, how do you think American cars stand compared to other cars available? And could you ever see a GM Chrysler merger or buyout of Chrysler by GM, given the fact that Chrysler isn't doing very well right now? And I feel like Chrysler's never doing very well unless it's, you know,
unless it's 1995 and the Viper's coming out. They were unstoppable then, or if it's like in the 60s, but that is a rising tide and all ships were high in the 60s, American brands. Iacocca in his autobiography did talk about one of the options for Chrysler would be a buyout by GM, and that was one of the things he was entertaining. See, GM lately has been nixing their own brands, has been trimming their own tree. Oldsmobile is gone. What else is gone? Their Geo brand, that left a long time ago. Holden is gone from Australia. From
used to me.
Yeah. So, not now. They're not. I don't think they would buy now. Because what would they be buying? They'd be buying the Jeep brand. That's the cherry on. It's a cherry on top of a turd. Yeah. That Jeep brand, that name is. I listened to the Rogan podcast with Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And he was talking. It was a lot about the business of the music business. Yeah. And he said, "Look, I hate to use the term brand, but the Smashing Pumpkins are a durable brand in the same way as AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. The idea that Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose can completely go to shit and then come back.
Yeah. And
people are like, all right, we're in. We're all in for whatever you're going to do because you are Guns N' Roses. And in the same way, it doesn't matter what happens to Jeep. It's still Jeep. It has that... that line. It resists the Jeep name resists decay like a church in a ghetto. Like I use that in a review. Don't know if that's racist though.
I don't
because I'm speaking from the church always. Maybe I won't. But the Jeep brand, it will take a lot to sink that ship. And people still love Jeeps in the same way people still love Dodge. So Dodge and Jeep can keep Chrysler going, but I don't think right now it's enough to court GM to buy them out, because
I think
they're either I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. That either they're doing too well or not bad enough for Jeep to want. Or I'm sorry, they're either doing too well or not well enough for GM to buy them. What was the second half of that question?
Let's see. Buy on Chrysler by GM given the. No, it's all the one. How do you think American cars stand compared to other cars available? And could you ever see a GM Chrysler merger or buyout of Chrysler by GM, given the fact that Chrysler isn't doing very well right now?
Oh, so they aren't doing very well.
Yeah.
And the thing was when where they weren't. Well, I think Chrysler has to keep. I think my prediction is Chrysler has to get worse before GM would consider buying them. In that GM likes to buy low, like low. Before Chrysler, because, well, I think what GM would do is if they would buy Chrysler, they would gut everything except for Jeep and Dodge. That would be it. The Chrysler name would go away. I don't see anything that Chrysler's making that's aspirational. 300 maybe, minivan maybe. Minivans are great rental cars and smoking tire likes, and that's about it. And that's the big question. How do American cars compare to European? They don't. They get close with Cadillac and Lincoln. They get close, and they undercut them in price point. I think the Chevrolet SS, that weird rear-wheel drive four-passenger sedan, is a buttload of fun. But recently, when we drove an American car, the Focus RS versus another one that's very hot right now, and I said, how does the interior compare? It's that they don't. And then there was another European counterpart to those other two hot hatches that, well, this European one has the best interior and it feels the best, but there is an American braggadocious craziness that I think is hard to replicate in Europe. AMG can do it kind of. They can definitely get crazy, but they can't get F me crazy. Next question.
Do you ever think we will get true small trucks back in America?
No.
I currently drive a 95 GMC Sonoma, the 3-door version, and dread replacing it because all the modern trucks are just too big and bulky.
No, I don't think. It would take a foreign manufacturer to come in. Someone would have to like paper clip something to get rid of the chicken tax, to let small things back in. Now we have safety standards. The Colorado isn't that big of a truck, and it can still swallow an LS motor, as Matt Happel proves quite easily. But other than that, there's nothing really out there. Be happy with your Colorado. Safety standards were different in the 90s. You could build small. Can't do it right now. So sorry, man. Hang on to those tiny ones, and I think they're a good buy. You find a nice Toyota T100s are kind of big, but you find a nice Toyota pickup that was just called the pickup. Hang on to that. You got to keep her. The big thing is, though, they rust. People say they're well made, and they are, but rust is taking their toll on those things. So you'd have to find someone as crazy as you and pay crazy money, or a crazy person's money, to be able to get one, or find someone who doesn't know what they have.
All right, and last one. Do you consider all cars when they are offered to you, or are there some cars pitches people send you that are automatically a no-go?
The ones that are automatically a no-go are the ones aren't formatted correctly. Year, make, model, city, state, and in the body, phone number. You can do that. I will then move without reading the email to the submissions folder. Yeah. Occasionally, if one's curious, when I see stuff that's labeled possible car review, well, full trash. Yeah. Unless it's something really, really crazy in there, odds are someone else has offered the same car as you did, and they've made it easier for me to find. Yeah. year, make, model, city, state. I should every now and again post on Twitter, hey, by the way, this is how you submit a car.
Well, isn't the link to the video for how to submit a car in the description for every review? Because I could have sworn I saw it in like the description how to submit.
Yeah.
For RCR.
I should look.
And because do you just like sort of copy paste the links for descriptions?
I don't even have to do that. It puts them in automatically.
Oh, nice.
Like the merch and stuff. I'll take a look, see if it's in there.
Because you made a video last year that explains this of like, if you want to be on the show, format it this way. And I think it was David Patterson who shared it. That was like, or yes, this because people
is the
don't
correct
understand,
way. Yeah.
You know, and you need to be able to search things by if we're in California and a car falls through, and we need to be able to go to the email, search California, and boom, the suggestions come up, and last minute. And the thing is that people assume that when they, and I understand why they assume that when they send an email, they're going to get an instant response. It might be a year on, of we just happen to be in the area and we need a car. Hey, do you still have the car? You still around? You want to be on the show? Like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And, the other, I think you were mentioning this to me, of the instant trash can submissions are the ones where I have access to.
Yep. That means you don't own this car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, yeah.
I've gotten a few people from dealers that say, I have access to over 50 cars at the dealership I work at. No, you don't. You do not have access. I'm sure you can go get a key and when no one's looking, taking it out, but that means you're getting fired. Yep.
That was the last one, and that'll do it for us. I have no idea how long this is running, but it's been pretty good length of time. So, anyway, thanks for watching and listening. Depending on how you're consuming this. Oh, and also I did submit the application for us to be on Stitcher, so that should be happening soon, provided approval. And also,
what's going on with iTunes?
Basically, there's some weird thing going on that I don't know. I submitted for iTunes, and it keeps coming back validation failure. In that either it's because it's hosted on Shout Engine, because it says it has to be hosted on a platform that's some weird thing like HTML or HTTP whatever heading, and also the artwork has to be 1400 by 1400, and so and there's a little thing of like podcast artwork, and it looks like a clickable link, but for whatever reason I can't click it to change it, and so it's weird. And also apparently all the episodes on iTunes have to have detailed metadata, which is just, I don't know. It'll happen eventually. The one that's probably not going to happen is Spotify, because apparently the more I read into it, the more hoops you sort of have to jump through, and it's pending approval, and they might not approve you at all. And so, I don't know. Maybe when it gets to a certain level of listenership, then it'll make more sense. But honestly, I have no idea how many people are even listening right now, because I don't even know how to check on Shout Engine what our stats are. So I don't know. It is what it is. But anyway, thank you for checking out the podcast. I'm Nick.
I'm Brian.
And we'll talk to you next week.
Have a good week.